think about being an entrepreneur as the most adventurous journey that you'll find.
Welcome to Founder's Voyage. Our guest today considers himself a big challenges seeker who enjoys team collaboration work and feels most in his element when he is creating technical systems architecture and process solutions. Through his AgErial startup in precision agriculture, our speaker today served as an independent senior consultant in SIGEL Guatemala, using state-of-the-art technology to develop custom agriculture solutions, helping small and medium farmers improve production. He currently works for Microinsurance Catastrophe Risk Organization, as the head of Growth Guatemala and Global Senior Technology Specialist. We are honored to have Jorge Carlos Barrientos talking with us today.
Thanks, Spencer. We're delighted each of you could join us today. Jorge's going to kick us off with a presentation about his journey, and then we'll open it up for questions and discussion. If you do think of any questions or comments while Jorge is speaking, please feel free to type them in the questions and discussion text channel, and we'll make sure he has the opportunity to address them. So thanks so much for being with us today, Jorge. I'm really excited. Feel free to kick off whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much, Nancy, and thank you all for this opportunity. It was quite a surprise, and it's a privilege for me to be here. So I salute you all. My name is Jorge Carlos Barrientos. Barrientos is my last name. We Latinos use two names. I'm from Guatemala, and I'm living in Guatemala. So this is my point of operations of everything that has been going through life. Nancy really kindly talked to me and said, "Well, you want to do a short presentation, just be part of the Founders Voyage, which again is a privilege to me. Sorry if I get confused because English is not my main language, it's Spanish. So I might have a couple of words that are not right. So I apologize in advance. And I'm going to show you just, we were talking yesterday about a presentation or how do we address this conversation. And I just want to show you a timeline of where did I start, or where do I think all things started from all the way up to where I'm at right now. Drawing these points, it reminded me of how fun it has been, but also challenging. So I'm going to be explaining you a couple of things. The green point, it's the start point, right? So it's after this green point, we'll set it's university and a couple more jobs that I have after university. I'm an electronic engineer. I studied in Guatemala, and before that, I studied in a local school in Guatemala, and I did my 2 last years in high school in New Jersey, United States. That's why I caught up with the English part. And then all of these X's, like the red X circle ones, are failures. It's like hard crashes or hard failures that I had within this timeline, which are more. It's not only 3 failures, but those are the ones that I think are the biggest ones. Which it's important to show because it's, as the title says, it's a voyage. So it's a complete trip. It's a complete thing that you go in between entrepreneurship, but not only entrepreneurship, but in your lifetime, it's like trying to see and try to awake yourself on what are you doing and what has taken you to the point of where you are right now. So first of all was Aprende, which I totally forgot. I forgot about this startup. I was working to this company, an awful company. Probably was the worst company that I worked with. And I worked there for 2 years, and then they fired me in the worst conditions ever. And I felt so miserable. And then I met a friend who was working with with this e-learning things. He was trying to program in e-learning platforms using Moodle and all of these available platforms that the market has. And he talked to me. He realized that I was without a job. And he talked to me, well, I do have this platform. If you want to help me out just to make a couple configurations, build up this e-learning platform. And if you do have contacts, and one of the main things that I always say is try to make contacts, try to meet people, because contacts will let you to open new opportunities like this, like being in the Founders Voyage, being in these communities. You know people, you start to know people not only in your country but outside your country, and it gives you a lot of opportunities to work with or just to assess yourself whether you're doing the right things or not, or even test it. So he told me, well, I'm programming this if you want to help me out to program as well, but what I need is context. What I need is just to launch the platform. And that's one thing that we engineers lack of. We engineers lack of after school is knowing how marketing works, being commercial minded as well, and also legally minded. Because most of the projects we work with, probably 8 out of 10 will fail due to the legal framework. Anyways, so I've started to work in this Aprende, which Aprende means in Spanish learn. We launched this e-learning platform, and it was a complete successful platform. I have been working in school with all my practices with this company that they were teaching. They were giving out like trainings, like corporate trainings. And I sat down with him and told him, well, we have this platform. You should move it into digital learning. And that was 2008. And it was like, well, I like it. Show me a demo. And we launched Aprende. We started on a license fee thing. So we were licensing each user. So we were getting profit out of each user. And we started from just a normal e-learning platform, customized to this client, to start developing content for these clients and for other clients as well. And we had banks, we had cement companies. We have a lot of companies that jumped into this platform. It was a complete success. So at that point, I thought, well, I found my thing. I found my company. I found my startup. And I was my experience in working was not that big. So I'm like, wow, it's a really successful story. But then the big failure came. I had issues and differences with my business partner. Then money came in, and we were getting a lot of money out of this company. And he started to spend money without me noticing. And well, all these kind of problems that you get when all this flux of money comes in. Big first failure, this one. And the main reason is probably I didn't choose the wrong partner. It was a good one, but he deviated from the route or from what we were thinking about that company. And then we just separated. We split the company. He took one part, I took the other one, and I sold my part to another company. And then I'm like just cleaning my hands. I'm like, okay, I don't want to know anything about e-learning. I will go back to work. After this big X, I started to work with a couple of software companies, local ones, not international ones. In this process, we came up with, we were in this election process, presidential elections in Guatemala. So do you know all that Guatemala is a third world country? I love my country. Don't misunderstand me. It's a country that I love that much, but there's lots of things that we need to improve our country. So then I realized that we were in this presidential election, and it was one night. I go to sleep very late, 2, 3 a.m., and it was like 2 a.m. I sat down on my desk, got online on my computer, and said, okay, I don't know who do I vote? Who do I need to vote? I don't have like of candidates that I like, or the candidates that I should choose from. And I went online and tried to search all this information about all these political parties that were on the rush or on the competition for being presidents, and all these candidates. And I found none. Well, probably I just found two sites, but those two sites were just marketing and publicity, and none of them had information about what's your government plan, what's your offering, and whether how are you planning to improve the country, how are you planning to tackle these main issues that we have in Guatemala. So just for give you a context, in Guatemala we have different ethnies, and then we have 22 different languages. So it means you need to tackle different problems with being smart and different strategies. So that's what I was trying to find. It's like, okay, I want to see these candidates and see what they're offering, not only in publicity, but it's like the core thing of politics. And I found none. So I decided we should have, or there should be a website where we had all these political parties get into and just upload their information, put and present their plans. So people like me and all this my generation and lower generations will have access to see whether I like the candidate or not, and just find who do I'm gonna vote for. So I started this Mi Voto por Guate, which means my vote for Guatemala. Guate is the short name of Guatemala. And in the process, I met really amazing people. I met this radio presenter. She became really famous after that. But she was really she had that energy which I lacked, and she had those connections. She was at this radio show, and she had a lot of listeners into this radio show, and I also listened to her, and she was talking about this necessity of knowing each candidate. So I contacted her and I told her, well, you know what? I'm building a website with this information, and I would like you to invite you as a blogger. That was my first approach to her. And even if you are looking for to get a payment out of each post or article that you post, I can get you. It's like it will be significant because it's my money. I didn't ask for anyone's money, but I can deal with that. I have a couple of savings that I can put on it. The thing is, my initial thought is not being profitable or find profit out of this project. I was only thinking of, I just want to build something that people could jump in and have information. Even if I need to invest a little bit, I wouldn't be able to invest a lot of money because I didn't have it. But just invest a little bit and give that service to the people or the community. So she came in and the project just boomed. She started to grab this complete attention to the project. So I realized, well, I'm not the one that it's gathering, or just as the gathering point of people, where you get to critical mass of users. And when we launched the site, we have like 10,000 hits the first day. And then we had 7,000, 8,000 users and visitors to our website daily. So it was a huge success. And then we start to have these companies and associations coming in, offering us money to help us out because it had a really good impact. We had a really a set of bloggers. We had like 8 or 9 different bloggers in different perspectives: politicians, economic students, engineering students, and all of these really nice bloggers that were writing articles about whether the plans were empty, whether the plans were nonsense, or this candidate has a really good plan, and what she's offering or what he's offering could tackle the problems that we have. So we had this reading process, and everyone was interacting within the website. So they offered us money, and I said no. So one of the first things that I talked to the people, because we started 2, and then the whole group became to be like 20 people working in the same project. we're not getting any money because money can just distort or change your mind whether what you're doing. And I had that experience with my previous business partner. So I'm like, no, I'm not putting any amounts of money into this project. If you want to help us out, just buy the things that we need. T-shirts, give us a radio spot, give us speakers, a band that we can carry all the things and make like these rallies at the center of on the central park that we had in our country. So this one was a huge success. At the end, well, I didn't have that much KPIs to measure the quality of success, but visitors, all the people that came in, we did a rally all this in the streets, and we were 1,410, I think, people marching, and they were like all young people, my age and younger than me, and they made all these their own things that mi voto por Guate, and they were like, yeah, we are hiring you, we are your bosses, so you candidates need to show us your information because we are not dumb anymore in voting. So it was I still have goosebumps because it was really fun. So after this, then we had an elected president, and the project came into, well, for me, I didn't think about just keeping the project for the whole time. I was just that point. I was interested in just creating that, and for me, it was a really interesting learning project. And then I put the project in charge of someone else's name, and well, everything went down. But the first time it was really successful. So this project led me to a TEDx invitation. It was a TEDx the project that and I know you're working in software and everything else, so we are having this event and we want to invite you. Please show, or the topic that you should choose is something that empowers people on how to create projects. So my idea was, let's do a talk about not all ideas are green, in terms of not everything that you do is looking out for profit. You can do things without thinking of being profitable or not. And don't get me wrong, it's not, you have to be sustainable, but don't have the initial mindset of, okay, I'm going to be making money and being sustainable. But my first or my main idea is make money. That was my perspective. It's not that making money is wrong. No, it's not. But that's the way that I thought. And I gave this talk about not all ideas are green, in terms of well, you can think about ideas or solutions or projects without thinking of profit as the main perspective or the main goal, and then everything will come. And I had that experience with the previous project. It's like, I didn't think about how much money do I have, do I need to get more money. It's like, just go in, jump in, take the risk, and then things will come and people will come, and then you'll find the right partners, the right people that will help you out just to push or launch your idea. So this one was a positive result, a really good positive result, and it opened me a set of opportunities. So then I have companies coming to me and said, you know what, we want to hire you as a consultant. And at this point, I wasn't working at a company. I worked, and then I launched this, and I was working at the company, but then I realized it was taking a lot of time from me, so I quit. It was a risky decision, but I quit. And then I had these companies asking me for consultancies, and they were like, well, you know what, we have this project and we want you to help us out, just to structure the whole project and help us launch it. It's a time to market thing, so just help us put this into market, put this into implementation. And it wasn't that much into software development. It was just the idea, the whole project management thing, at how to push a project or how to push an idea. So in that process, I met really interesting people and a lot of really interesting initiatives. And I learned as well of this company and corporation structure within my country. Then, so I've started to work in this consultancy. I was a consultant. I've started to work in a software company as well, which is called Shumac. It was a company working with Adobe, doing really interesting things. So it was the process that I was working half-time a company, well, as a part-time in the company, and then everything was consultancies. And then I realized that I wasn't doing anything interesting for myself, or not for myself, but something that it was really good. I was doing really nice, really good money at this point. But I thought, well, I need to do something that really pushed me into challenges. And so in this process, I met really interesting people and really smart people as well. So I met a group, engineers, software engineers and developers. And then we created this thing called Pihui. Pihui is a bird that is a black bird, is an ugly bird in Guatemala. And we created this, and we started to draft ideas on how to create video games. So I love video games. You can see my background, it's video games is a really is an important part of my life. I don't have that much time right now to play, but still. So we started to think, well, how do we develop video games? How can we enter the video game industry? Thinking about just dreaming, and we were like, we could be video game developers, like not thinking about just a huge PS4 platform video game, but just mobile video games. It was a huge thing. So we entered to the Square Enix contest, Latin American contest. So Square Enix is this video game developer firm, and we entered really late. The contest had already started, and it has like 3 months, and we had 2 months to deliver our solution or our proposal. And in these 2 months, we rented this small apartment, and we were 8 of us in that apartment working from 9 p.m. to probably 5 a.m. That apartment had a shower, so we took showers and then we all went to work. We slept a little bit. It felt like an MIT bootcamp thing. So we developed this solution. We developed this game called Planetron. It was a simple game. It was a simple board game because we were really into board games, but it was a simple board game into the mobile, into the cell phone and a mobile solution. And we did all the things, the music, everything else. We did it as a group, and we had so much fun. And we ended up in the finals. We did not win, but it was a complete experience. Like 2 months, something from scratch, just an idea, was a hobby, and then we ended up in the finals. We were really happy. It was a successful point, and we did not win, but that opened us as a group opportunities with a casino firm. So they realized, I don't know how, really, I don't. But they approached us. Well, they called me up and they told me, well, I know you're developing games, and we have this problem with this casino game things, and we want to migrate our games to a web platform. Could you help us out? And we're like, okay, but we're not like an official company. We're just a group of friends doing something that we like. And they were like, what do you need? It's like, well, we're renting this apartment. Would you pay the rent of that apartment? That will be our main office. And we cannot work normal hours. It would be at night because everyone had a job. And they agreed with that. So we had 2 jobs now, working a part-time / full-time all nights. But it came to a point that I was so tired. Working all nights without sleeping and just weekends and things. It was a complete experience. And then after that, I sold my part on that casino company. They bought my part. They retained most of my friends in the company. Most of them, they sold their parts as well because we were all a solution. And then I went back into working as a normal job, as a normal employee. Why? Because I thought, well, I need that experience working with multinationals, just looking into different project management frameworks, developing frameworks, technologies, and things that I didn't have access on my own. So I was thinking about, well, it's a time of my life that I need to get more experience on how to work with different markets. I know that I can do things, but I still need more experience. I felt that I lacked that experience. So I went to work with these telecommunications companies, and I also worked with Xerox in that time, which I learned a lot. It taught me different ways of perspectives. I went to Six Sigma and all of these frameworks and trainings, and it gave me this knowledge and expertise that I wanted to build up. But in parallel, I still had this software startup. So I was working with these multinationals, but I was looking into small software development projects. A couple of friends in this gaming adventure were working with me as well. So we had this small company with the same name, with the same gaming name, Pihuy, with the black bird. And then we started to build up another company, and we went all the way up. It's like it was a parallel thing. I didn't stop working with the multinationals because I thought, well, it's a really important experience point for me. But I want to be also an entrepreneur. So I had the startups in parallel with my job, and then I had this failure point as well, because I had a really life experience thing. So it was a personal family thing. It changed the whole view of my life. It stopped me in a couple of, well, I had a couple of dreams. I had a couple of things that I work on. And then this happens, something that I did not have control of, and boom, everything went down. So I stayed in Guatemala and tried to figure out, well, what would I do with my life? If I continue with my own startup, or what should I move to another company? What would happen? When this microinsurance company, which I never heard of, I never heard about microinsurance as well. I knew about microfinance, but not microinsurance. It was a complete new word for me. And they sent me a message in LinkedIn telling me, well, you know what? We've seen your profile, and we have a recommendation from, at this point, I don't know who. So we would like to invite you to apply to this position. And when I was starting to see that the terms of reference for this position, I had none experience on microinsurance. The only experience that I had was software development and try to push projects and in that entrepreneur or startup thing. And I told Josh, which now we're really good friends. He's working from the Asian Development Bank. I told him, well, Josh, you know what? I don't have an idea of what microinsurance is, and I really don't have the experience to apply for that position. And he told me, well, you know what? We're not looking for a finance background thing. It's we're looking for someone that is in within technology, but has that experience of working in different startups. That challenge. He has experience, or he has the vision of being into a challenge, because we are the startup as well. This is not a well-established company, but this is a startup. We're entering into a new market with a new solution, so we want that from you. So I'm like, okay, if you want me to, I can apply. And I applied. They interviewed me, and then I ended up working in Micro, which is the company that I'm currently working with. So it's a microinsurance, which is we are working into parametric microinsurance, catastrophe risk oriented. So what does that mean? Is we're not using the normal traditional insurance. It's parametric claims. So each of the parameters that we get from these report agencies, which are NASA, USGS, NOAA, and all of these European satellites that we have, we get all this information, all these binaries. We calculate those, we derivate all this data, and we find out if some climate or catastrophe trigger goes on. Then we issue a report, and then the insurance company will pay it automatically to the clients. So the client they don't go and do a normal claim. They don't go into a normal process. They just get the insurance, which is micro, because we go to the base of the pyramid. That's a really cheap insurance. And since they don't know about insurance companies, this is an unattended market, so they haven't have any insurance experience. We couldn't go to it with a traditional solution, So it's like just hire your insurance and we will pay you. So we will send you an SMS just telling you, well, you know what, this storm happened, and then you have a deposit in your bank account, or your credit, we subtracted this amount of money from your debt because we paid it as the indemnization of the insurance. So it was really, it is, because it's really challenging. It's really, I've learned a lot. It's like working with satellites, working with data sets, working, understanding climate change, which I had none idea. I just saw a couple of articles and shows in Nat Geo and Discovery Channel and everything else, but I never got into climate change. And then the most amazing part was working with this unattended segments, working with this base of the pyramid markets. Oh my god, it was a life changing experience. It's a different set of clients. I was coming from corporate clients. I was coming from casino players clients and all of these type of different clients. But then when you realize that these people are in a constant need, they won't put money on it. But when you realize that you're putting money on it, taking a huge risk, because it is a huge risk, you see how thankful they are. You go to the field. I wasn't working in the field as well, and that Micro pushed me into work in the field working as well. So it's like observation, and you learn that in the MIT bootcamp. So you need to observe, and you need to observe. So it's observation and how do they tackle these climate catastrophes. What do they do after these climate catastrophes? So what they normally do is, well, they don't want to fail the bank on the credit, because the bank is the only one that is trusting them. So what they do is they sell their actives, they sell the pigs, cows, whatever they have, all their assets, or they take kids out of school. So those are the main 2 points. And so I won't be delayed with my credits with the bank or the cooperatives that is giving me the money to operate or being productive. So it was really interesting. It is a life-changing experience. And I said, okay, so at this point, I understood this is where I need to be working with the rest of my life. In terms of this is the market segment I really fell in love with. I don't want to, it's not that I'm telling you that the corporate thing is bad. No, it's not. I still have a couple of consultancies from corporations. But the segment that I want to be in the rest of my life, it's this segment, is the unattended markets, is the most needed markets in terms of people that they don't have access. People that are unattended because they think, or companies think it's not a potential market to work with. So I know I've been talking a lot. I get really passionate, sorry. And after this microinsurance, then the agriculture startup came in. By the way, I had the software parallel. I still have the software parallel solution in terms of we are software developers in different we've been jumping in different technologies. Right now, we're working with a blockchain, and it has been an amazing journey as well, being developed in blockchain. But Micro played a really important role, because what got me into blockchain was Micro. We had Mercy Corps that told us, well, you know what, there's this new technology that is working, and we want to make sure that we are on top of it, if it's eligible or if it's potentially doable, or if not. So they called me out. They said, Jorge, I'm going to put you in this group of people that is going to be thinking of ideas and seeing if blockchain could be applied to our line of business or not. So I'm like, okay. So I've started to read a lot of blockchain and realized, wow, this is amazing technology. We ended up to have just one solution for the microinsurance and microfinance. But the thing is that we did not pursue that solution at the beginning because it was quite expensive. So blockchain consultancies were, sky prices. But then on my own part, I told my business partners, my friends, well, you know what, blockchain is a really interesting point. And we started to compete with these Caribbean competitions of blockchain solutions and local blockchain solutions as well. And we started to work with founding this blockchain awareness group in Guatemala and making these blockchain presentations. What is blockchain? Not only about cryptos, but the process of being traceable, transparent, and permanent. But it's micro triggered that. And then micro triggered the agriculture startup. Why? Because we were managing a lot of data sets from satellites, but most of that data we were not using it. It was a depreciated data in terms of it's a really relevant data, but for our operation for the microinsurance, we're not using it. We will not be using it. And then I'm like, wow, there's an opportunity. We could be using this knowledge and the data that we're not using, but we're gathering that data. But how can we use it for agriculture? And how can we start at this remote sensing and smart agriculture solutions to the unattended markets? Again, I wasn't thinking corporates. I wasn't thinking of big companies. I was thinking about and now this agriculture sector, all these small farmers, they gather up as cooperatives, and these cooperatives, our clients, are really interested in. They do have money, they do manage money, so they can be sustainable. We can think about a sustainable solution. And I approached this drone company in Spain called SIGEL. They were really big. And I told them, well, you know what? I knew that they were trying to get into the drone and solutions into the Central American market. But then again, they were really expensive. The drones are $125,000 per drone. So I'm like, I talked to Miguel. He was a Spanish guy, which is a really good friend. And I told him, well, Miguel, you know what? You're wasting a lot of effort trying to put these expensive machines. Why not use normal or household drones or something not that specific, but not only drones, but try to find solutions using satellite data and try to derivate that data with ground solutions. Meaning we could use drones, or we can use weather stations, or we could use ground underground sensors. So he liked the idea, so he put money on it, and we started to draft the whole process. And then FAO came in, and FAO was launching this process. And I met someone from Telefónica, which is this Spanish telco company. And this person I met her because in a startup like this founders rally that we had in the city. And then I made really good friends. And she told me, well, you know what? I got your contact, so let's talk. And she told me, well, you know, in Telefonica, we're pushing this startup about smart agriculture. And they told me you're working something similar, so I want to see your solution. So to make it fast, we ended up working in the Telefonica project and a pilot with FAO. So Telefonica paid everything. They paid all the equipment, they paid all the consultancies, they paid all the hours, and we were like the clients, the vendors for Telefonica, but we were the ones that are implemented and tested. So it's still a pilot. Due to the pandemic, we stopped lots of operations because we couldn't travel to the communities. We couldn't travel outside El Salvador because this pilot was in El Salvador, not in Guatemala. But it is a huge challenge. You cannot think only in technology, but you need to think about solutions about how do you make the training, how do you create all these important documents. So this is me right now. I'm this a small arrow. These are the three main projects I'm working with, and this is where I ended up. The one thing that I have clear is I want to keep working in this segment. I want to keep working for these unattended markets, and I want to keep thinking about these solutions. That's why I got enrolled into the MIT boot camps, and then with Nancy, where I met Nancy in the Impact boot camp as well, is how to create solutions that will have impact, but they need to be sustainable. So I will let you guys make any questions if you have.
Sorry, I'm struggling to unmute myself. No need to apologize. Never apologize for being passionate. We love that. I was joking on the side, though, that because you and I got to have a conversation before this, that I asked you all of these questions, and you did such a good job kind of summarizing your very, complex journey in really just a short amount of time. I know it's hard to sum all of that up. So I really like that you gave, as someone that is always trying to, learn from the past and use that information to, make a better future for myself and others. I love that you really seem to be able to visualize that for yourself, and you used that term, your hard fade transitions. I think we've all experienced some of those, but that's a very unique thing that I haven't heard before. So I appreciated you explaining that, and sort of how one event in your life sort of catalysted so many of the others, and your passion about sustainability. Wondering if you wouldn't mind, delving into the unattended markets and kind of how you want to see that grow in Guatemala and in other areas of the world, because I know that's something you're particularly passionate about.
Yeah, for sure. That definition I learned in micro. I didn't know anything about unattended markets. And what is an unattended market? Well, I saw the first example with insurance. You have, well, in Guatemala and Central America, we're located in a place, well, in a sector or an area that is all it's always getting all this climate change, well, all this catastrophe, natural catastrophe. So we're really exposed. It's an exposed region where we get annually storms, tropical storms, and then we have these huge droughts. So it's a really exposed sector. It's a really exposed region, and then you have all of these people that are making their own. Well, it's a self-production farming, in terms of they produce their own food. They're not going into markets, but it's how do you call it? Sorry, I forgot the name. Is subsistency farming. So it's they're farming. What they do for the farm is just to feed themselves, to feed their families. And if they have an extra production, they will take it to the local markets. But then again, it's a segment that it has so low amount of money, and they don't have any solutions. They don't have any opportunities. The credits or the financial services they're able to apply for are really expensive. And the other ones that are cheap is there's a lot of requirements that they're not eligible for it. So those are these unattended markets. Why? Because it's a huge part of the population. In Guatemala, we're almost 15 million people, and you can say that more than 60% are in this situation. So it's people that are just producing and just working for themselves, just to make them food available for their families. And they're looking to grow. They're looking to sell things into different markets, but then they have all these natural catastrophes coming on a yearly basis, and the government is really, I don't want to say it's really bad, because they do have a couple of really good initiatives, but in general, they don't. So you cannot rely on the government or the solutions that they do have. So, and the insurance thing is, it is a really risky solution to work this segment, and mostly to offer a catastrophe insurance, knowing that each year you will have a drought that's triggered, and you will have storms triggered. So that means that you will be paying. It's not an insurance like a car insurance that they will pay only if you crashed, or it's going to be a one-time thing in every 3 years. Or if you're a really good bad driver, then you will have it on a more constant basis. But that will end up to being more expensive, because your premium is going to be more expensive next year, because you are more you're sinister. You're more risk to cover. So insurance companies are, well, this is a segment that we don't want to work. It's too risky, and also not only it's too risky, but there's too much to invest. You need to invest in financial education. You need to educate them because they don't know a thing about insurance, and what will be a solution to attend them. Because if we go to the traditional things, or just things that are been doing as they are, you're going to be finding a lot of problems, a lot of blockers to attend this part, because most of them they don't know how to read, they don't know how to write. So you need to be really creative on creating these documentations or these things that you're showing to them. Well, you have an insurance and you need to work. You need to claim it like this, or there's not going to be a claim, but you're going to be putting satellites, and they're going to be asking, "What's a satellite?" So it's a really challenging part, and companies are not interested in. So when I entered Micro, it was so nice. It was so passionate about it. They had already a big player in it. So it's Swiss Re, which is the second biggest reinsurer in the world, and they were willing to put money. They were willing to take the risk of insuring this segment. So the complete challenge was that, okay, so what will be the solutions? What will be a relevant coverage? What will be the things that we need to cover? What will be the pearls that we need to think about covering? What are the things that drives these unattended markets to being more poor, or take the kids out of school, or just sell their own assets, and they're into that poverty circle, and they never go out. So that's the big challenges about unattended markets. There's a lot of things you need to do in order to launch a product. But once you do it, well, if you do it right, the impact is huge. You'll see it. And you need to define really well your KPIs. You need to define really well what you're going to be measuring. If it's poverty, if it's asset continuity, or farming, whatever. But once you start to see it and how grateful and thankful these segments are, you fell in love with it. So same thing for small agriculture, and it will be the same thing for other financial services. The main need is finance. As the financial services they're lack for, and why? Because that makes the will goes on and on, because you need money to invest. You need access to really cheap credits, so you can put money on that farming part. And if you have an insurance, that means whenever a catastrophe happens, you're not spending more money. You're spending what the insurance is paying, so you can continue that process of production. And in the best cases, is you're going to be investing that money into more production, so you're going to be more productive, and slowly you're going to be out of that poverty cycle. So that's one of the main goals. And the other one is that we've realized is the lack of empathy to these segments. Wow, it's huge. You have a lot of companies or a lot of investors that are just thinking about an idea, and they say, okay, let's take the insurance as an example. Let's create an insurance in this region. But there's a lot of things that they do not know about that community, about how do they behave. And that's the lack of empathy. That's the lack of knowledge of how do they behave. So they invest huge amounts of money that in time they're lost, or they're not sustainable. So projects will be successful for 1 year or 2 years at the most, and then everything is just going to be these capacities that you built are going down, and you're going to start from zero again. So you're going to be building again this community and telling them, well, you know what, this project that I'm bringing right now is going to be successful. It's not going to be like the other one. And they will tell you, well, you know what, we have organizations coming in, and we did this, and we did the other one, and we created this bakery process, and now there's a bakery. We do not find that a company or the organization just gave us the money. They build this, but we do not know how to keep going, how to continue. And that's a lack of empathy of how do they work, because probably a bakery is not the main necessity, and the main necessity is access to an insurance, or is road is communications access. They have really bad roads, meaning probably it's 3-4 kilometers, which is not far. And when you see it in Google Earth, you see, well, it's really near from the big village. But then to access that 3-4-5 kilometers, it takes you probably 1 hour in car, and you cannot enter it with a normal car. It has to be like this huge 4x4. So then you said, okay, if it's 1 hour in car, how much time will take them to go by walking? So it's like 3 to 4 hours. And if it's raining, so you have all of these problems that organizations, companies, and even local regulators are not aware of. So that's a lack of empathy in these segments. And that's something we're working right now with a group of friends, trying to build up these solutions on how to create empathy for the projects you're proposing. Is get to know your users, get to know your your communities, get to know the entire surroundings of that place you want to work with and that project you want to work with. Not only how the community works, but also all the stakeholders you have outside. The regulation is a huge thing. It happens to us. It really hit us in the blockchain solutions. We came up with 11 solutions, and just one was approved. One went through the regulations approvals. So it's like the other ones were really good, were really nice, and were really for the legal framework. You cannot do it. The regulations are just trying to approve laws or approve regulations that are going with other countries, but they didn't realize that the scheme in our country is totally different. So that's one of the things that we're pushing in within my country. And I know we share a lot of these main problems and main issues to other countries, not only Latin America, but you can go to Bangladesh, you can go to India, you can go to Asia, like a lot of countries that are facing the same issues, are facing the same problems, and are sharing as well most of the same culture in terms of all these rural producers, rural farmers, and these small businesses producers. So yeah, so Guatemala is like the base point, but we are working as well in that empathy project, in a Bangladesh project as well with my friends. So it could be global. You can expand it global. You can scale it in a global solution.
Jorge Carlos, thank you so much for going through all of that. I think the point you make about empathy is super important, and I feel like so many people don't appreciate how different the situations can be in different places in the world. Now, this question's much more of an engineer's question. What are your thoughts of sort of developing technologies that are adapted specifically for that environment? And do you think that's a potential solution path?
Well, that's a really good question, Spencer. It's a huge challenge. I think I don't have the real solution for it. Is when we started to design, because I got into Micro to design the platform, and me and my team, we designed the calculation platform, which is the entire software platform that gathers all this satellite information, processes it, and it has a lot of mathematical algorithms that define which point is triggering how many millimeters of rain, and etc. When we started to design this process, we one of the main thing is, well, our CEO told us it has to be cheap. So keep in mind of maintenance. Maintenance has to be cheap because our solution is cheap. We're not getting a lot of profit out of or margin out of each insurance prime. So think about develop something cheap, but then you have the challenge of, okay, it's going to be cheap, or it has to be cheap, but you're aiming to a technology that hasn't been developed, or if it is, it's in a expensive scale. So that was one of the main points of trying to build something in-house, because we looked first into global solutions. We couldn't find one that adapts into the things that we were looking into our specific country, because we have the insurance company we have the insurance product in Guatemala, El Salvador, Colombia, and Mexico. So each country is different, and they have different triggers, and they have different problems, and they have different perils. but we needed to develop a platform that could attend all of these countries in the same platform. We started to look at for these solutions in the market, and we couldn't find them. We couldn't find something that is adapted of not only being cheap, the custom calculations that we were doing and all these mathematical algorithms that we were putting in, but also thinking about it needs to scale. And we found a couple of ones, but when we thought about scaling, wow, it came out really expensive. So it's like, okay, you can operate this one product, which is going to be cheap, but afterwards, you want to scale up, then you're going to be paying these fees and licenses, and the product is not going to be sustainable. Since to unattended markets, it's a really small margin that you're working with. So we decided to develop an in-house platform, complete challenge. Thank God we achieved it. We delivered a really good platform that is still working, still attending these markets. We're making a general change right now. We're switching to a different software architecture because we didn't thought about scaling up that fast. And then we realized all these problems that you find about performance and then data management, everything else. And then when we were implementing these specific solutions, we got into a problem of how do you explain or how do you put those solutions into these segments, into these users that are not using technology, that are not using smartphones, that are not using internet. It was so much easier just to develop a mobile application and put all of these triggers and all this information that you could put them in and just give it to the user. But then it will be a waste of money because they're not using applications. And if they do have access to data, they spend their data in WhatsApp, YouTube, and Facebook. So it's not they're not going to be spending their data plans into looking into an application. So we came back to the design desk again and went up to, well, we need to use SMS. So try to grab all this information and put them into an SMS script, an SMS solution, and the SMS will be our entry point with the client. So you have this huge technology, and then you cannot use like the normal technology channels that will enhance your solution. But then you need to go 10 years back and to start to think about, okay, how can I use the SMS? And then you have lack of access in data, and then you have lack of access on data plans and SMS plans as well. Wrapping up the question, yes, unfortunately, you need to develop custom solutions for these markets. Unattended markets are unattended markets. You won't find a general solution in the markets because they're focused in different segment markets. So for this, you can grab a platform, a open source platform, open source framework or software, but you need to customize it, and you need to do a lot of customization to attend this kind of markets. And when you realize that you cannot just use the easy solutions or the most technology solutions, you need to go back 10 years back and use previous technologies or try to grab your solution into previous technologies. So right now we're using top-notch technology in the calculations. How do we calculate? How do we extract data from NASA? How do we extract data from USGS and NOAA and all these satellites? But for the user, it's SMS. It's a 10-year thing. It's not any wow, what a technology. Even our front end, it's so simple. It's like the simplest thing ever. So you wouldn't think that it has a lot of thought and a lot of technology on it, but it is custom developed. And right now that we're switching to another solution, we went outside again, try to find another solution. We found 2 companies, but 80% of the development will be custom as well.
Yeah, thanks so much for describing that. And thanks to Spencer, too, for having that engineer's mindset and asking such a good question. Building off of that just a little bit, I know you and I both took the recent impact pilot. I was wondering, how you actually approach trying to monetize some of these solutions for the unattended markets. Because I can definitely see some challenges when you're trying to help a certain group of people, and there's not necessarily a lot of capital to work with. So how do you go about thinking about that, and has that changed as you've educated yourself?
Well, you need to be sustainable, and that means, as you mentioned, Nancy, that means money. So what I've experienced, it's you need to rely on investments. You need to rely on probably grants, operated first based on grants. So we have this Swiss government grant, we have this German government grant, and then we have a U.S. government grant, and that help us out to build the base, the framework, the solution. Thinking about how are we going to be sustainable but for that design part, we needed that push. We needed that money to go into. So it's for impact investments, you will need to go and look or search for that investment, or search for that grant, or apply to a grant. In the agricultural startup, we ended up getting financed by Telefonica. It was a grant for them because they were trying to pilot this smart agriculture solution. So that grant helped us out to buy equipment, develop the software, pilot all of this traveling to El Salvador and hiring a local technician to operate this hardware and training. So to a first push, you need to look for a grant, but keep in mind that you need to design ahead of being sustainable. So that means at one point the grant will end up. And you cannot be looking out for more grants. It wouldn't be a sustainable thing. Just keep going into a grant, another grant, because at some point grants are not going to be available. So you need, and also you need to show the grantees, the ones that are giving you that money, is okay that this project could be sustainable and I can scale it up. So you need to think about scale up, scaling on projects. Scaling them in user scales. Or there was an example in the impact. You remember this guy that he was working with this Moringa thing solution, where they created this machine and they were getting oil out of this Moringa tree in Africa? Well, he said something that I liked so much, that they were arguing about scaling up in users, having more people using their machines to make the oil, or scaling up in companies that are buying your oil. So that means what I'm finding, or I'm just arguing about, if I need to scale up in impact in terms of how many users do I have? I have 20,000 farmers in the Moringa, or do I need to improve or scale up in how much money I'm creating or I'm doing to help them out? So those are the things that you need to think in the design of that solution. It's whether that point of scaling up is in users or will be in income, will be in amount of primes that you're getting out of the insurance, how much money you're getting out of the each prime you're selling of these insurance solutions. Or no, you know what, I need to get up to 500,000 users, have 500,000 insured people to make ourselves sustainable. So that's part of the design process. And then you're starting to see what will be your profit strategy, what will be your earnings strategy, and try to aim that point, try to aim that skill point, try to aim that KPI to reach that sustainability point, which is not easy. It's really hard. We have been found that a challenge in Micro. It's whether we go for insured people, insured amounts of amounts of insurance in the market, or we have another line as like companies or organizations like the UN is hiring us as consultants to design insurance or to design climate solutions, and that's another revenue streams that you find in the process you're creating your product. So you will be finding this potential revenue stream, another revenue streams, and those are the ones that will give you sustainability. So you need to be open-minded on what else you can do within your project.
Thank you very much, Jorge. Carlos, Now, given the time, we've kind of got one question that we like to ask as a sort of wrap-up question at the end about any advice or what the best lesson or the words of wisdom that you have to share with us would be. So it's very much free to whatever you feel like you'd like to ask, but if you have any sort of lessons that you'd like to share with us at this point, I'd love to hear them.
Yeah. I thank you very much for this opportunity, and I loved that connecting dots speech that Steve Jobs gave to Stanford University, and I really found it. Right now, it's really useful to see, and Nancy mentioned it, is when you go to the past and you see how the past helped you to build your current yourself, your current you, how the past helped you to get into the point you're working with, or what you're doing right now, or how do you ended up to know, well, this is where I want to be. This is my passion. This is where I want to be. Spend the rest of my life working in. So it's try to connect those dots in the past, and then it's fill your life with adventures. Being an entrepreneur is a complete adventure. It will make you build stories to tell, good stories, bad stories. But when you're connecting those stories to the past, those connecting dots thing, and so you realize, wow, all this path that I came in and each of the things that had happened helped me to achieve this point or achieve this or being at this point right now where I'm really happy for it. And the other one will be think about failure as a teacher. Think about this failing points, or if you fail in your startup, if you fail in your idea, or your project is definitely not going, try to that failure. Dennis Whitley said, failure should be our teacher, not our undertaker. So failure is delayed, not defeat. So do not defeat yourself, be defeated for failure. But once again, connecting dots is just go to the past and see what that taught me. What were the lessons that I learned about it? And that failure helped me out to realize, well, I'm not going to do this as this or this way that I was doing it. I'm going to be improving, or probably this segment or this market, or I'm not good at this point. So I need to think about different things. So yeah, those are my wrap up thing is try to connect your past with your current yourself and your future. Create adventures. Think about being an entrepreneur as the most adventurous journey that you'll find, and do not see failure as fail, but make lessons out of failure, and it will make you grow a lot.
I love that. As a person that often fears failure, I'm gonna really take your words to heart, especially just seeing all of the things that you've been able to accomplish thus far. And I know we definitely need to stay in touch because I know this is really just the beginning for you. Thank you so much for all of your insights and wisdom and describing your journey to us, Jorge Carlos. Yeah, thank you so much again. And have a great day or evening ahead, everyone. Take care.
Thank you so much for coming on. It was awesome.
It was really nice to meet you, and thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. This has been Nancy and Spencer on Founders Voyage Weekly Podcast. Our speaker each week can be reached through our Discord server. Our intro and outro music is from the song Something for Nothing by Reverend Peyton's Big Damn Band. We'll be back again next week for another episode. Until then, have a great day and continue your voyage.